Good evening and welcome to the Modise Network. Tonight, the University of Johannesburg Vice-Chancellor Professor Tshilidzi Marwala discusses the significance of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a journey he started 20 years ago when he obtained a doctorate in artificial intelligence. Later on, the DA's head of policy, Gwen Ngwenya, responds to President Ramaphosa's stimulus package and offers her ideas on how to turn the economy around. South Africa has talent beyond the entertainment sector. One institution is lucky to have such talent. The University of Johannesburg earlier this year appointed Professor Tshilidzi Marwala as the Vice-Chancellor and Principal, and he comes to the job with unique credentials. He's a doctoral graduate in artificial intelligence and has received the highest order of Mapungubwe for his contributions to science. The native of Chivase, Limpopo, comes to the position of UJ as principal at a time of tectonic change at universities in South Africa, with majority students receiving publicly funded education, whilst many are calling for the decolonization of education at the time of shifts in the nature of work. Three ideas there, and we will be exploring those. The former high-achieving student of Mbilwi High School in Chivase and graduate of Case Western Reserve, Pretoria University and Cambridge University, Professor Marwala brings a variety of experiences and insights to the job and to South Africa's knowledge base on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Welcome, Professor. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Tim, for invitation.
And you can see it's been a nice setup that I've, put up for you, right? So
absolutely.
I hope you wade into this setup with your eyes wide open.
Absolutely. My eyes are so wide open, I'm not even blinking.
So it's been, 8 months or so in the new job, and what has the experience been like as the main guy, the chief of UJ?
It's actually quite fantastic. I'm enjoying it. As you know, the University of Johannesburg is moving into the Fourth Industrial Revolution. That is my vision, to take the University of Johannesburg into the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And of course, this means we have to teach differently. It means we have to research differently. The topics in which we have to research on have to be different, because the graduates that are supposed to come out have to excel in the Fourth Industrial Age.
Now, just tell me about your first year as a student, right? Now your first year as VC, first year as student. What was the experience like at the time?
Well, you mean as an undergraduate student?
As an undergraduate student.
Well, I was an undergraduate student in the United States.
Yeah.
As you can imagine.
I can imagine, and it's deliberate. You see, so I'm talking about shifts there, but here is also the cultural shift that
absolutely.
You had to undergo.
But I was a little bit lucky, because when I was in high school, I won the National Science Olympiad. So I actually did go to England and spend two weeks overseas. So I was a little bit exposed to an international community, So that was quite exciting. But obviously there's a difference between going to a place for 2 weeks and going to live for 4 years in a place. So it was exciting. My roommate was from Tokyo, Yoichiro Endo. And I think this is really what the Fourth Industrial Revolution is all about. It's about people, and diversity of people is very, very key.
But diversity of people.
Yeah.
And when you talk people, you're talking culture and values and so on, right?
Exactly.
Now, I'm putting myself in the shoes. We're going to talk about Fourth Industrial Revolution in detail, greater detail, during the course of this interview. I was asking myself, preparing for this, saying, I'm imagining when you are at Mbilwi High School, at what point were you thinking about following the course of studying technology, science, and artificial intelligence, for that matter? It's a relatively complex subject, which we will explore in a moment. Were you thinking about that when you were in high school, though?
I was not thinking about artificial intelligence, most definitely, but I was thinking about engineering.
Yeah.
And what really worried me at that point, everything that you had was written made in Japan. You still remember that era?
Yeah,
Everything, whether it is a toy, it was written made in Japan. And of course, made in Taiwan was just
emerging there.
Yeah. And then I always wondered, why not made in South Africa? Why not made in Zimbabwe or Zambia, you know? And then it boils down to technology, it boils down to engineering, it boils down to whether we are educating enough people to be able to play a leading role in that industry, you know. So because of that, I decided that I was going to study engineering.
I'm asking that question because I find a lot of young people, students, battle with that when they try to figure out what to pursue, you know, professionally through their studies. They can't make up their minds as to what to pursue. What approach, in your case, did you use to finally find the direction?
Maybe if I will just make it clear that it's not very important what you study. What is important is that you should go and get a good degree and excel in it, and there's going to be opportunity. For example, I studied mechanical engineering as an undergraduate student, but that allowed me to go and do a PhD in artificial intelligence because it was broad enough. The knowledge that I got was broad enough to allow me to be able to go and study artificial intelligence. I have written 2 books in economics because when I was doing mechanical engineering, I had to take 6 economic classes. And now you have artificial intelligence that is changing the nature of economics. Now you need somebody who understands both economics and artificial intelligence for somebody to write about the impact of artificial intelligence on economics. So, and that could even have been done by somebody who studied economics. They could write a book on artificial intelligence. If they go and study it afterwards, it doesn't mean that if you studied economics as an undergraduate, you can't go and study artificial intelligence. So what is key is that do something that you really are passionate about and do it well. Then the rest will take care of itself.
I suppose this is the message that you take to your students at UJ, right?
Absolutely.
That is the kind of passion you'd like to have.
You have to excel.
But you know, because you are there leading and looking after the institution, what are the challenges that you think they have to contend with and you have to advise on and help intervene on so that the time they spend with UJ is as helpful as it can be?
Absolutely. I must also put it into context that studying in South Africa is hard. Studying in South African university is hard. When I look at some of these young people, I say, how in the world do they excel?
When you say it's hard, what do you mean?
The classes are bigger. You know, you hardly have a one-on-one with a professor because the staff-to-student ratios are not very good across the board. You know, when I was an undergraduate student, I had an advisor who was a professor from day one. This person was the person whom I have to meet every month for lunch, and then he will go over what are some of the challenges that I'm facing. He was a senior professor. In fact, he was actually a famous professor, for that matter. Our students don't have that. Of course, they don't have that because our education is too, we have many students and fewer academics. So it makes it harder. Secondly, when I arrived at university as an undergraduate student, I was told that all our undergraduate first-year students must stay in residence because we want to watch them. Because we understand that the transition between high school and university is hard. So if you wanted to stay outside campus, you have to have a very, very persuasive motivation for you to stay outside because they won't be able to know whether you are getting adequate assistance. None of our universities can be able to guarantee accommodation to all our first-year students. So this is really what makes it harder, you know. And now, you know, I will talk later about what we are doing to make sure that we are able to deal with that issue. And then, thirdly, many of our students are actually first generation to come to universities in their family. So what does that mean? It means when they are having issues, they cannot necessarily, academic issues, they cannot necessarily rely on their parents for assistance, and when we arrived in the United States as international students, they used to give you something called an adopted family. I mean, they will go, for each international student, they will make sure that they will find you an adopted family. These are people that you will, that becomes your family. You go and see them over the weekends and so on and so forth. Something that we don't have, because when you come from the Free State and you come to Johannesburg, it's almost like coming to a different place. You probably
coming
don't know
to
anybody.
America.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got to find your way. It doesn't matter where you come from, and there's no adopted family that's going to look after you. But having been a student, I mean, not only in the United States, you came back home, studied at University of Pretoria, and then went back to the UK to study at Cambridge. Is it #1 university in the world? Cambridge?
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
I suppose we should mention that. But I mean, having been a student, what advice would you give any student who's very, very aspirational and wants to achieve things academically?
I'll give you an example. I had a student called Tshilidzi Marwala, and he came to me and he says, Professor, give me an advice. I see you studied overseas. What can I do? I say, Sikusiso, I studied in the United States. I think we have far too many people who studied in the United States. I don't think you should study in the United States. I think you should go and study in China. He says, how do I go about doing that? I said, no, go and we have the Confucius Institute that is going to teach you about Chinese culture. So go and spend some time at the Confucius Institute and learn about Chinese culture. He went there and he was even doing martial arts there. Then we assisted him to apply for a scholarship. He is actually doing a PhD in artificial intelligence in one of the leading universities in Beijing. So, and I use this example because it illustrates quite key points. Number one, opportunities will come to you if you seek them. I'm reminded of what somebody said. I can't exactly remember who, but he said that an opportunity of a lifetime must be taken within the lifetime of the opportunity. So Sibusiso was very, very, very ambitious. He identified the opportunity. He did not wait. He grabbed it. He actually comes from Orange Farm. And you can imagine what going to China, and he has been there for 2 years now, what it does to the mindset and what it does to our economy, especially given the fact that we trade more with China. The knowledge that is going to get, how it's going to transform our society. If only we had 1 million Sibusisos, then all our problems will be sorted.
Well, I understand you. It's an issue of mindset, right?
Yeah.
If you can just calibrate accordingly in your way of thinking.
Exactly.
And then the environment can be made to serve you and your interests and your
you
goals.
should never stop dreaming. You should never stop being ambitious. Being ambitious is glorious.
That's Professor Marwala. He's the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Joburg. He's my guest. We haven't even gone into the subject that he's passionate about and which we need to know more about. This fourth industrial revolution, we'll be unpacking it in a short while.